It's our turn, episode number 94, Games with Dice. In this episode, Sarah and I talk about the games we've played recently, including Fireball Island, Sword Crafters, and Herbaceous. And then we talk about our favorite games with dice.
This is the Dice Tower Network, adding games to your wish list since 2005.
Hosting for this episode is generously provided by our fantastic supporters on Patreon.com. If you'd like to help us out by pledging $1 per month or more, please visit patreon.com/OurTurnPodcast. Every dollar helps us to keep this show going strong. Hi, and welcome back to Our Turn. I'm Cathy Ford.
And I'm Sarah Reed.
Hi, Sarah.
How's it going?
Oh, it's moving right along. Today, as we're recording, it's your Monday and my Friday.
Yep, and both can be tiring days, but we're doing this because this is fun.
It is. It's lots of fun. And I've been looking forward to talking to you about our hot topic all week long. So.
Yeah, I'm excited too.
But we're going to start out as we usually do by talking about what we've gotten to the table lately. And Sarah and I are going to start off by talking about the exact same game.
I know, this is very unusual. Now, unfortunately, we didn't get to play it together, but we both played it independently. So now we can talk about it together.
Right. And that game is?
Fireball Island.
Yes. And there's been a lot of buzz going about it. Mm-hmm. So what did you think about it?
I thought it was a lot of fun. It fits exactly what it's trying to be. It's trying to take what I don't know if I should coin this term because it's kind of, games are toys, but of course us hardcore gamers, we're like, our games are not toys. But this is really one of those game toys. I mean, it is. It brings in that fun tactile play element. And it's really focused on it, but it still has engaging gameplay, just as you would play any other. I mean, random. There's a lot of randomness. You're drawing cards to move around this island. It just has more tactile physicality to it when it takes up most of your table.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it does. Who'd you play it with? Just you and Will?
Just me and Will.
I played it with 3 other adults and a 10-year-old child.
Oh, wow. That got to be fun.
It was. It was a lot of fun. I thought the game was a lot of fun, too, and it does have some surprising strategy to it.
Yes.
In this game, you are on an island, a volcanic island, hence the name, and you're trying to look for treasures and avoid fireballs and boulders and all kinds of stuff that can fly at you.
Yeah. And
get back to the helicopter pad before the end of the game. And
yes.
the game has a finite number of rounds. Turns.
It goes by the marbles. Right. I forgot what they're called. Ember something. There's certain cards in the deck that when you play them, you drop marbles into Volcar. And you add that card to a track. And when there's 3 of those cards, then you add another marble to this pool of marbles that now you start with 1, you drop, and then you add 2, and I think it goes up to 3, and then I think that's what triggers the end of the game.
That's what triggers adding the 4th marble.
Yeah.
And then that's end of game. You've got you finish that round, and then you do one more round.
Yes.
And then that's it. And anybody who's not back to the helicopter by then got left on the island.
Yeah, I think you can still count some of your points if you get left on the islands, but there's certain things you can't count. I don't really remember because both Will and I made it back to the helicopter. So
I didn't.
Sorry about that.
So, no, it was all right. It was fun. I actually managed to avoid most of the chaos. Mm-hmm. I believe the pirate ship is an expansion.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So we were playing with all the expansions.
Oh my.
Yeah, Dwayne bought all the expansions. Hi, Dwayne. There are these spaces on the board. So understand, this is a game that was developed in what, the 80s?
Yeah, late 80s.
Yeah. And it still has, I mean, it's a good game. It still has a lot of the qualities of games from back then.
It's not quite roll and move. You've got the cards. You have some strategy because you can choose one of two cards. I think you only have two cards in your hand. You get to play a card, and that's your movement and usually some other effect.
That's right. That's right.
But you're still moving around the board.
Right. There are certain spaces, they're called caves, and you can go into a cave in one part of the island and come out on a different part of the island, or you can come out on the pirate ship.
Ah, yes.
And I managed to come out on the pirate ship. And everybody else stayed on the island. So they were flicking marbles at each other and throwing boulders at one another. And I was just over gathering treasure.
Did you get to shoot the cannon on the pirate ship?
No, they got shot at me.
Oh.
Someone came at me with them and managed to miss.
Oh, okay.
So that was okay.
Yeah, we didn't quite want to jump headfirst into the deep end, so we just played the base game, but we do have all the expansions. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we started with everything.
Wow.
I thought I had plenty of time to get back to the helicopter, but then somebody went, I'm going to play the last card just because I want to. And I went, all right. 2 people managed to get back to the helicopter. I had the Heart of Volcar, though.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah. I managed to take it away from one of the other players, from the 10-year-old. Actually, it was funny because I got to take away something from him because of something he did. And he got to choose, and he handed me the heart.
Okay.
I'm like, all right. He had all kinds of stuff he could hand to me, but he handed me that.
Well, there is some set collection to the game. So if he had tokens he was trying to amass, I do believe a full set of whatever that treasure tokens are would be worth more than just Volcar's heart. But it's one of those games where you almost don't really, I mean, you are obviously caring about the points, but you're playing the game to have fun, to flick marbles and drop marbles at other people and try to knock them over. I mean, that's the fun play element of the game.
Right.
So now I will say, unfortunately, this game is not vision accessible.
No, it is not. And it's a dexterity game, which requires you got to be able to see where you're flicking things.
Yeah. So we did house rule it because the rules state that if you get knocked over for any reason, it's supposed to be a penalty. But because Will can't see the board, we house ruled it that only marbles can knock over people. So, because there were points where Will wanted to be able to see the board. To see the board, he has to touch it. And so I was guiding his hand around so he could see where the paths were, where the the ladder was and the bridges. And so if he accidentally knocked one of us over, we just put it right back up. No harm, no foul.
That sounds perfect.
I will have to still say, though, if Will were rating the game, he would not rate it highly because to him, it is strictly a toy. He does not really see the game element because he can't literally see the game very well. So, unfortunately for him, it's not a good game. He's obviously okay that I got it because it was fun, but it's going to be one of those games where I'm probably not going to get it to the table much, except when we do a big game day where he's playing some heavy Euro game with other people, and I've got some people over flicking fireballs at each other. So.
Well, I will be happy to flick fireballs at you anytime.
Okay, sounds like a plan. I like it.
All right. Now, you and I rated this game the same way.
Yeah. Okay, so we both rated a 3.5. It's because it's not quite a 3. It's not just an okay game, but it's not quite a 4 either, where it's not really, really solid. Because again, when it comes down to the scale of games I like to play, it's kind of in between a 3 and a 4. So hence you get the 3.5. It's a good game, but it is a good game toy. And so it's going to be for those times where I feel like playing a toy.
Right. One of the things that we kept running into was there are little spots on one half of the island where you put these little green marbles and they're supposed to represent snakes that are jumping out at you, but they're marbles. And so you put them on these little indentations in the plastic on the island. And understand, if you haven't seen this island stands, 2.5, 3 feet tall?
Yeah, because it's made of 3 pieces, and you use 2 of them to hold up the middle one, and then you put Volkar's head on top of that middle one. So it's got a lot of height when built.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then it slopes down on the sides like islands do. Mm-hmm. You're walking on paths up to Volkar, which is the volcano, and then you're, coming back down. And anyway, these little green marbles are put onto these really shallow indentations.
Yep.
And I mean, like I said, I was playing with a 10-year-old, and every time he bumped the table, marbles would go rolling down the island. And I think production-wise, those indentations could have just been a touch deeper to make the marbles a little more stable in their spot. I think they also needed to be maybe painted a different color.
Yeah.
They kind of blend in really well. So every time we were like, okay, where did these go? They do have a little spiral on them. So that helped. Mm-hmm. But it was still a little difficult to see every time they fell or it got flicked off or whatever. You had to stand up to put them all back because you're supposed to put them back when you're done. Mm-hmm. When you're done flicking them at somebody. I thought Volkar was done really well, which is a giant like Easter Island type head, but hollow with a mouth, that big size though, or bigger. I thought that was really well done. And I liked the way it turned, although it was kind of hard to get it to turn.
Yeah, it was a little kind of clunky. Clunky is the word. But the nice thing is that it's like a star shape under there. So you will get it. Once you can turn it, it'll get back into place and stay in place. So that's the good part.
Right. Yeah.
The other thing on the marbles is I'm glad I got the upgraded marbles, because the marbles that come with the base game, they're supposed to be red and orange, and I could not tell the difference between them. But the upgraded marbles, the ember ones, were kind of like, I don't know, they reminded me of marbles. You play with marbles that are
like cat's eye marbles?
Yeah, like transparent with some stuff inside. Mm-hmm. And then they had the solid red. So it's like those were really easy to see the difference. But I was looking at if someone just bought the retail box and tried in poor lighting, good lighting, it didn't really matter. The orange and the red looked very similar to me.
And the other thing that was kind of a disappointment to me, and makes me kind of glad I didn't spend my money on it, is the box.
Yeah.
That box was flimsy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Super flimsy.
They've gotten a lot of flack over the box because they put the energy and focus in on the game. And when it came to the box, I've read some of their comments. They were trying to go for more of that retro feel. And they chose a material that they believed was going to be very sturdy. And it actually is a very sturdy looking box. It's a very lame looking box. It doesn't look good because it looks like a box of a game from the 80s. So.
Right. I mean, I've seen sturdier looking cereal boxes.
Yeah. So that is unfortunate. And I do believe one side of my island is slightly misprinted, but they're getting so many, like major issues. I'm like, I'm not going to bother. I can play it. It's close enough for the printing. It's not like majorly off. One part, the path is up on the side, but it just like a little bit. So it's still got some on the path area, so it's good enough. But yeah, it's just one side got slightly misprinted.
Oh.
So, I mean, that's a little disappointing, but I'm also, I guess I'm probably just more lenient since I know what it takes to make these games and run a Kickstarter and do all those things, that they're getting enough negativity right now. I'm not upset enough or annoyed enough to add to that. These all little things add up to why it's not a perfect game. Because even if this is just going to be a game we play occasionally, if it was perfect production, it would be a 5. It would just be maybe the 5 I don't play very often. But
right.
So yeah, it's not perfect, but I think they did a really great job of taking an old roll and move toy game and bringing it into the modern age and actually adding some strategy and some gameplay to it. So
Yeah, no, I had fun with it,
Yeah.
and I would be happy to play it again if it were to come out. I don't think this is one I'm going to be adding to my collection.
yeah, I don't see you guys buying it.
Yeah. No, Mark doesn't like dexterity games. I happen to like dexterity games, but he doesn't. And so for that reason, it won't be coming into our collection.
Yeah.
Mark did play it, and he was like, it's all right.
Yeah, that's kind of what Will said. It's all right.
You know, you also have to understand that Mark was well past childhood in the 80s. Yeah, he graduated high school in mid-70s.
Oh, okay.
So by the time this came out, he was already off doing grown-up stuff. So he has no nostalgia about this game.
Yeah.
And I missed it completely in school. So
I was the right age because born in 1980. So if it was the late 80s, I would have been 8 or 9 or something. But I never played it. It wasn't a game my parents bought me, probably because the whole boy-girl thing, it's more of a boy's toy. And I didn't have any friends that had it, but one of Will's friend had it, and he actually still has his Volcar head. Unfortunately, the board got stepped on. He kept it, though. He said he kept it, and he said it was just recently. Not recent, but last 7 years or something. 7 years ago or so, somebody was in his room and stepped on the board or something.
Oh, wow.
But he had the old version. He kept it that whole time. So yeah, I remember when I first told him about this Kickstarter, the next time he came over, he brought the Volcar head. I'll have to ask him to bring it next time so we can compare to see how different they are.
All right. Fireball Island, we both give it a 3.5. And what's your next game?
Sword Crafters. So
I haven't heard of this one.
it was a Kickstarter, of course. I believe probably 80% of my board games come from Kickstarter. And so this continues the trend of game toys. Yeah, I saw this on Kickstarter. It must have been at the end of last year or earlier this year. And it just looks so cool. You make a 3-dimensional sword as you're playing the game. It's cardboard tiles, and they have little grooves, and it's hard to explain, but it uses the mechanism of I cut, you choose for drafting the tiles, and then the tiles have different colored gems, and so you're doing set collection.
Oh, okay.
That's the main way you score. And so you have this handle, and you get 2 guards. Each guard has a different colored gem, so it gets you started on the set collection. And then those have grooves. You slide one of the tiles in, and then on the opposite side, you slide a tile in, and then you go to the other side. So you're building a square sword. I'm probably not describing this well, but it's really neat how it works, and the cardboard is really sturdy. We'll have to make sure to link so you can look at pictures because it's really cool.
Oh, we'll put some pictures in the show notes.
I don't know how to explain it other than it brings that tactile, fun toy element into the game environment where so for those who don't know, the I cut, you choose method is that there's a grid for this game, there's a grid of tiles. And the first person will make a cut. So you could cut off just a row or a column or in the middle. It has to be a vertical or horizontal line. You can't go zigzag through the tiles. So you make a cut, and now there's 2 groups. And the next person will choose one of those 2 groups to, again, cut. So they could take off maybe 2 tiles or whatever the lines end up being. So each player is going to pick a group and do a cut. And then it goes back to the first player. They're going to choose one of the now existing groups of tiles. They'll take a group, next person takes a group, and so on until everyone has one group of tiles. Except if you're playing in 2-player, then you each take 2. You do that twice. It speeds up the game for the 2-player game.
Okay.
There is a tile in there called the Forge, which if you take it, then you become the first player. First player is important. You make the first cut, and you're the first person to choose. So that's important to try to get that, except the fact that if you're taking the Forge tile, that is not then a tile you're adding to your sword. And then when you get these tiles, you have to add them to your sword right then and there. But there's rules in that you have to evenly add them. You can't just keep stacking on one side of the sword. So you have to plan ahead that if you want all of one side to be green, you can't just take a bunch of green right away because you can't just go up a left side. You have to build all the sides as you go up it. And so you just keep doing that until you draft all the tiles. The basic game, you score for the quality of the sword. You're going to look at each side and count up the most number of a color, as long as you have 2 or more. So if you only have a green, a red, and a blue, you don't score any points. But if you have 2 green, then you get 2 points per green. If you can get a longer run, it doesn't have to be next. Yeah, they have to be next to each other. That's it. They have to be adjacent. And so you score each side for that kind of quality. You got a long run of gems. Then in the base game, there's cards that are like the most red, green, and blue. So you add up all those on your sword. Whoever has the most gets the most points. Or sometimes it's whoever has the least yellow. So they're, end game scoring.
Okay.
Now, I also have the expanded edition. I don't think it's Kickstarter exclusive because there's actually 2 entries on Board Game Geek. The expanded edition has additional modules, which I totally believe are necessary unless you're playing with kids all the time. Kids all the time would love the base version without any frills or anything else to change things up. But the additional one adds mastery tiles, which then at the end of each round, if you fulfill the requirements, you get to take a tile and it's worth points. So if you have a green and a red next to each other, you could take that tile worth 3 points. So these are additional ways to score, and these could either be in addition to the original endgame scoring or instead of. So even that original endgame scoring can be something you can take out if you don't like it. Because I do believe those are a bit swingy, because Will was not paying attention to those, and I got 10 extra points from the endgame scoring cards because he didn't pay attention to them.
Oh.
So yeah, that could be a bit swingy. There are sword tips. We didn't play with that, so I don't know how they work. But there's a couple other modules in there, and I just, it's really a lot of fun. Will really liked it. He could see it well enough. I mean, I had to tell him the colors on the tiles because he couldn't see the colors, but he was able to play, and he enjoyed the tactileness of making the sword. And so for both of us, let's see, what did I say? I rated this a 4. Yeah. I wouldn't say it's perfect. One of the things that both of us kind of made fun of is their theme is a little lackluster. Honestly, I would have preferred if they just said, here's a toy that's a game, go and you're going to make a sword. Yay. At least it would have been straightforward. But the theme is the sword of protection has broken. And now you must be the one to reforge the sword of protection and save the kingdom. And I'm like, really? This kingdom has one sword?
Of protection.
Of protection. That's kind of lame.
Uh-huh.
So, they put much more effort, and the quality comes across in the making of the rest of the components. Also, their insert did not work out. They found that out at the last minute, unfortunately, so there was nothing they could do about it, but we pretty much took it out. It was supposed to be a nice grooved thing so you could line up all the tiles and keep them all nice and neat.
Mm-hmm.
Had to toss it, and as it is, things barely fit in with that tossed. So I don't think the box was quite fitted right for the expanded edition. It might have been fine for the basic. But yeah, I still say this is a solid game. I'm not always going to want to play it. I am especially terrible at I cut, you choose. Most time if I went first, I just split it in half. And then I would just choose the next group to split in half. And I would just deal with whatever ended up at the end because I just agonize over that. And I can't predict what Will's going to do. I've never been able to. I think he's going for green. I'm going to split these 2 greens. Nope, he goes for the blue. Okay, whatever. I'm not even going to try. So that
sounds
is
like
difficult. Will. Yeah, that does. Well, with Will, he's usually got about at least 4 plans going on in his head at once. So even if I mess up 2 of them, he's still got 2 more.
Yep.
So the I cut, you choose method, it can be a little agonizing if someone thinks about it too much. But it's a really light game, so if people just get through that, it's set collection, it's fun, you get to make a sword. It's really cool.
Cool. All right. The game that I'm going to talk about is Herbaceous.
Woohoo!
I have seen this game around for a while. I have never played it.
You never played it?
I have never played it until recently.
Wow.
And, I just kept hearing good things about it. None of my friends own it. I have seen it at cons and just kind of looked at like, Yeah, herbs. Great. That's a wonderful theme. Okay.
Oh.
Just
But it's got Beth Sobel's art. It's
I
so pretty.
know, and that's what ultimately made me buy it. I'm like, this is such a pretty looking game, and I think I bought this at RageCon in Reno. My friend Aldo, hi Aldo, he runs Expressions, which is a game distributor, and he always brings damaged games to cons to sell. And yes, my box is dinged. At the bottom of it is crunched, and then the organizer's a little bit crunched, but it's not too bad. But the components are fine. The game components are just fine. And so I think I got it for like, I don't know, $5 or $10.
Nice.
Yeah. I actually buy quite a few games from Aldo that way because, they're good games. They're just crunched.
Yeah.
That's how I got a good deal on Gloomhaven.
Ooh.
Yeah. In Herbaceous, you are gardening herbs. I know. Exciting. Exciting sounding theme, but it actually plays really well. I actually got Mark to sit down at the table. I said, it's herbs. You love cooking.
Yeah.
You're going to love this game. And we both loved this game. We both had a great time with it. So there's a community garden and there's your garden, your private garden, and you're trying to take cards. It's a set collection game, so you're trying to take cards from both the community garden and the private garden to make up pots that you're putting together. And there are 4 pots in front of you, or 4 sets of pots.
Yeah.
And each one requires that you put in a different mix of herbs. So one of them requires that, however many you're going to plant there, they all have to be different. Each individual card has to be different. And then another one, they have to be all the same herb. And you can put as many in there as you want. They score based on how many of the set you get in there. And then another one is sets of pairs. Yeah. And then the last one is you can only plant 3 in each one, but there is a set of herbs that can only go in the glass jars. And those are the special herbs that if you get a 1, 2, and a 3, they have little numbers on them. Then you get the herb biscuit. Mark looked at that and he goes, that looks so good. It looks like it's ready for butter. It's just a picture of a biscuit on a plate, but
I know, but it looks so good.
It's really well done. Yes. Beth Sobel's art is gorgeous. The components are good. I believe they're linen finish cards.
I think so.
Yeah. I mean, they're nice
really
to
nice.
handle. Yeah. They're beautiful to handle. Probably the only nit I could pick on this was, thinking about accessibility. On the back of the cards, there are diamonds that are made up of plants. Each player color is on the back here, but there's no variety in the type of plant. It's just the color of the diamond. Yeah. And so, that was the only nit I could pick with this game.
Well, and the good news there is that side is face down on the table the whole game.
Right. So they're not even used during play. Mark pointed out the same thing when I said, yeah, I mean, this would be kind of hard for someone who's colorblind to discern which player color is which.
But on the other hand, it doesn't really matter.
Doesn't really matter, yeah.
You just need one of each pot. And even if you got them mixed up, as long as you've got one of each pot in front of you, the back could be a different color for everybody.
Right. Like I said, it was a nit.
Yeah.
It's not even a big thing, but yeah. And then you have these little, the little things that you take out of the plants you buy at the store and you stick them in the pot, you put it in because you want to know what's in the pot. That's the player marker that you put between the private garden and the community garden. Yeah. And they're cute.
And those are colored, so that's a better indication of what your color is, even though your color, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Color isn't a big deal in this. It's easy to tell the difference between the different herbs. She did a great job of putting together these cards. And the theme works.
Yes.
It absolutely works. Mark and I played a total of 3 games, and I beat him 2-1. So that was nice. It's not often that I can beat Mark at games. Anyway, I give Herbaceous a 5. I think it should be in everybody's collection. It's a great filler game. It's not a tough game.
No.
My mom is coming over tomorrow, and I'm looking forward to teaching this game to her because I think she'll enjoy it. I'm going to teach her that and King Domino. And then we're probably going to then throw her into the deep end of the pool when everybody else shows up for our Tuesday game day. So that's Herbaceous.
Yeah, I was going to say Herbaceous is one that one of the first games I taught my coworkers, and one of my coworkers, she went out and bought the game almost right away. She loved it so much. And I backed the Kickstarter, so I have a small little expansion. I even forgot what it's called. It adds just like 3 cards to the game. And they're like little mini events when you draw them. So one of them will be like, everyone pass a card from your community garden, your personal garden to the player to your left. Everybody can plant an extra herb into a pot, even if it's already been potted.
Oh, okay.
Little cute things. And the thing is, Edo had made those Kickstarter limited in that he was only going to sell them directly at conventions or off his site. So I dropped him a line asking him if I could buy one for my coworker, and he was so nice. He's like, just give me your address, and he sent me one.
Oh,
so
nice.
That was really cool. So yeah, in fact, that reminds me, I haven't taken it to work in a while. Well, the group has gotten more regularly to 5 people, and unfortunately, Herbaceous is only up to 4 players.
Right.
So I think that's one of the downsides. I haven't been able to take it to work because there's been too many people. But
well, if you get so many people to play, then you just divide them into 2 groups. And
not quite there yet. It's almost always regularly 5, maybe 6. Even at 6, they will not split into 2 groups.
Oh, okay.
They're like, that's no fun. And I'm like, okay.
You'd be surprised.
I'm trying to tell them that. But here's the other thing. I've become such a game teacher or moderator. Unfortunately, I've taught them to rely on me to help them remember how to play games. So they've actually told me that they can't play games without me because I remind them how to play. It's okay. It's a good, every Friday we play games. It's a nice break from work. And I don't mind that they're just there to be social and hang out and do something that's not work related. So it's fine. But anyways,
cool.
It's a good one.
Nice. All right. And that's what we've been playing. We have set up and been referring to and rating games by our own rating scale. Here's how we are using this scale. 5. Buy this now. 4. A good solid game. 3. Decent with some bugs. 2. Has great potential as kindling. And 1. Give me back the time I spent playing it. Games with dice are as old as civilization itself. For millennia, people have been tossing chance cubes on tables, cave floors, and on the ground as a form of amusement and gambling. Today, Sarah and I are going to discuss our favorite games with dice and what it is about these games where random chance is such a big part that keeps us coming back time and again. Sarah, what is it about games with dice?
I don't know. It's like you said, that random chance.
Seems like some people love them and some people can't stand them.
Mm-hmm.
I have one friend that rage quit in the middle of a game of Firefly because he just has such bad luck with dice. Mm-hmm. And I won't play dice games with him after that.
Yeah.
Including and especially Firefly. He is a master at just about every other kind of game, but he is lousy at dice games. And I don't get it.
Well, I mean, for people like that, and there's a lot of times I prefer the high strategy, low luck, because you feel like you have a sense of control over what's going to happen. Well, and with dice, there's a lot of it you can't control. Because here's the thing. With a deck of cards, you have 20 cards. If you're drawing from that deck of cards without reshuffling, you know you will eventually draw every single one of those 20 cards. But with a die, you could roll that 1,000 times, and it is possible to never roll the side you need. And
That's true.
that can be really frustrating. In fact, that's what kept me away from dice games. When I first started in the hobby, I did not like dice games at all. Unless there was a highway to mitigate or manipulate. I mean, that's kind of what we based Oaxaca around in designing it, is dice can be used to great effect for deciding things, for gathering resources are often used in that respect. But a lot of players will want a way to manipulate that die. So yes, there's this random chance that you could go horribly awry or awesomely amazing, like when you're role playing and you roll a 20, it's like you did awesome. You did like a crit or something really awesome happened. That person believed whatever lie you just came up with. So it can be really exciting. Dice can be really exciting because you put all your hopes and dreams into this die rolling, and is it going to happen? Or is it not going to happen?
That is true. One of my favorite dice games, which I'm actually not talking about today, is Elder Sign. And you roll the dice and you're trying to hit the specific formula of die faces. Mm-hmm. But it does have ways for you to manipulate those dice. You can turn a terror into a skull, or turn a 3 clue into a scroll. Mm-hmm. And that does make a difference.
And actually, this is where I think this is going to be an interesting discussion, because my top 3 favorite dice games have a high degree of manipulation of the dice. Now, obviously not when you first start, because in every game you usually start really raw, but as you play the game, you get more and more mastery and control over the dice. And that's what I love, is you take this random element that normally hates you with a passion, and then you get to exert your control over it. So, yes.
Now, only one of the games that I'm talking about today allows that.
Yes. So that's going to be interesting.
The other two don't. You roll your dice, you take your chances.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love those kind of games. We'll talk about those when we get to the honorable mentions, the lighter, casual games. I definitely enjoy those now. I didn't when I first started in the hobby, but now that I play games with my coworkers, and a lot of them on a Friday at lunch, they're like, just give me some dice, I'll roll things, I'll write things down. Let's just have fun, and whatever happens, happens. And so I enjoy that more now than I used to. It used to frustrate the hell out of me. I'm like, what is this thing? It rolled a 2. I needed a 3. What?
Yep.
So, yeah.
All right. So why don't you start us off? What's your first game that you're going to talk about with dice?
It's going to be Seasons.
Your favorite game of all time.
Yes, it is my favorite game as well. It is a dice and card game. And with Seasons, the dice are how you gain the resources that you need to build the cards that you need to win the game. Thematics, actually, I think you're wizards. You're all wizards. You're going through these 3 years, and you're setting up the cards ahead of time. I won't get too much into that. But you've got these cards that require different elements, or might be crystals. And at the beginning of the round, one person rolls the dice, and you are drafting from whatever rolled. So there's already some choice there. You're not just stuck with one die that you rolled, but you have some choices. Of course, if you're first, you get more choices, and if you're last, you only got a couple of choices. But you take these dice, and that's how you gain the resources. The cool thing is as you build the cards give you abilities to manipulate the dice. There are some that will let you re-roll the dice. There are some that let you, when you gain resources, you could trade them into other things. So that's, again, where the game really is fulfilling for me. It's very strategic, but it's also very tactical, because you've got to roll with the dice. You could be thinking, I've got this awesome card that's takes fire. It's going to do really awesome. But if you literally cannot get fire, that card's never going to go anywhere for you. So you have to shift, again, with where the dice go. And that's with a lot of dice games, is you have to be able to roll with it and adapt. But then also this game has a high level of strategy, because you have to set your cards out ahead of time. At the beginning of the game, you're drafting cards. You get 9 cards, and you have to set them up 3 per round. And so you've got to set them up in the right order, because you will not get that card in the 3rd round till the 3rd round. So I rated a 5. Like Cathy said, it's my favorite game. When I first got in the hobby, we had just gotten out of Magic the Gathering, and I was burnt out on pre-constructing decks. I wasn't good at it, but I enjoyed the gameplay. And Seasons was the first game that really gave me that feeling of being able to build combinations between the cards, but you're building things as you play the game. There's nothing pre-constructed about it. You all sit down, open the box, and away you go.
I think we borrowed your copy of Seasons and played it, and I really enjoyed it. It is definitely a game that I would like to add to my collection, and it is definitely a game that I would like to explore some more.
Yes, there's a lot of depth to it. There's 2 expansions that add some wonderful choices and new mechanisms. It's very solid.
And the game that I'm going to talk about is Lords of Vegas. It is easily in my top 5 games of all time. In this game, you're using dice to build the casino, to build your casinos along the Vegas Strip, and you're trying to earn victory points that go around a track, and whoever has the most victory points when the cards run out wins. But the dice are an important part because you use the dice as a way to claim your spots on the strip as you're building your casino. You place the dice in the casinos based on the picture that's on the board. Mm-hmm. Highest die face is in control of that casino because multiple players can claim spots in the same casino.
Oh, wow.
And as you're claiming spots, you're placing these colored tiles. And if 2 players place the same colored tile, those are considered the same casino.
Ah.
But the player with the highest die face in that casino is in control. And when that color casino comes up, that player gets the victory points. The other player gets paid based on how many dice pips are showing in that casino in their color of dice, but they don't get the victory points. The player that's in control gets the victory points. So as part of your turn, you can challenge the other players in your casino for control. And when that happens, you pay. The denominations in this game are all in millions.
Yeah.
So
big money.
Yes, big money. You pay $1 million per pip. So if one player has 6 and another player has 1, and the person that has the 1 wants to challenge, they have to pay $7 million.
Woo.
And then you take all of your dice in the casino, the other player takes all of their dice in the casino, and you do a roll-off. Mm-hmm. And the player who comes out on top gets control of the casino until next time. And you can only do that once per turn. Okay. So if you don't get the outcome you wanted, you can't challenge until your next turn.
Got it.
So that's where the dice are really important. You know, you set them down according to what the board says, but then they can change by these challenges. And sometimes you're rolling and you're trying to get more control. Maybe you've built this casino with 2s and 3s and you'd like to roll them to see if you can get 5s and 6s because that'll get you more money, which will enable you to do more stuff, which will get you more points. But if someone else is part of your casino, you could lose control.
Ooh.
Or you could roll 1s and 2s.
Got it.
And then you're making less money. So
it's a risk.
It's a gamble. Yes. Apropos to the theme, there's also a spot on the board where you can do gambling. And you actually, you would say, I don't have enough money to do what I want to do, so I'm going to go gambling in your casino. And you roll the dice, and depending on what the dice come up, there's a card that says, when you roll the dice, what wins and what loses.
Okay.
And if you win, then the player whose casino you were gambling in has to pay you, but they can defer up to half of the winnings to the bank. So then the bank pays you. But it's a way to kind of try and take something from your opponent, but it's kind of a fair fight because they might get your money instead.
Got it.
That is Lords of Vegas. It is one of my favorite games of all time, and I absolutely give it a 5, and it is one of my favorite games with dice, for sure.
Nice. Yeah, totally not my kind of game. I'd probably play it just to see what it's all about, but that randomness and the risk taking, that's probably more of it than anything else, is that risk taking is not my style.
I'm trying to figure out how this would work with Will's vision. Because he's got a really good memory, so yeah. I think he might be able to play this, but you just have to tell him who's got what color casinos.
Yeah, that would be it. As long as the board is not too complicated, I could describe it to him, and yeah, he'll keep it in his head.
I think it's like 6 grids of varying sizes.
Yeah, it shouldn't be too hard. So yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
So anyway, that's Lords of Vegas. What's your next dice game?
Well, my second favorite dice game happens to be designed by the same designer of my first favorite dice game. Anyways, that's Dice Forge.
This is a good one.
Yes. I currently rate it a 4.5 only because it needs an expansion, but I am 100% confident that once that expansion comes out next year, this will become a 5 and it will rise up right next to Seasons. We'll see, but Dice Forge is just awesome because before Dice Forge came out, Lego did a series of board games. They did it all wrong. But regardless, they had dice that you could take the sides off because it's Lego. They they were rubbery edged, and you had a little tool to pop the little tile off so that you could modify and change the dice. And they made like dozens of games, and we have almost all of them. Even a couple of the imports that didn't come out in the United States. And they are varying degrees of terrible, bad, okay, almost good, and like 2 of them are good. So that's
high praise.
Yeah. Well, they did get Reiner Knizia to design one of them, and that's one of the ones that's good.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah. I always thought that something could be done with that. The concept of a die that you could change during the middle of a game. Lego never did that. Their games were all, you preset the die to whatever the sides are and you play the game with the die. So they never did anything during the game where you could change the die. And so I just figured somebody hopefully would see that. I have no idea if these people saw that. But they finally came up with a game where you craft your die during the course of the game. Everybody gets 2 dice. I do wish that they had made them more distinctly colored. One's cream and one's tan. And honestly,
I think they're cream and light gray.
Yeah.
But they're still hard to tell apart, even when you have good vision.
Yeah. The good news is one of them's pretty much your moon die and one's your sun die because it actually starts with one of each on there. So that's an easier way to reference it. Of course, once you start taking the sides off and putting new stuff on, then it's, it's different. But that's what you're doing in the game is on everybody's turn. Everybody rolls the dice, which I think is an awesome mechanism. I've seen it in other games. It really speeds up play that everybody's gaining resources on everyone's turn. It's a little difficult for new players because they lose track of whose turn it is. That can get a little confusing, especially we were playing it with friends who they play it a lot on their own and we play it a lot. We got together, played a 4-player game in a half hour. We were just knocking through this thing. And this game's more like a 45-minute to an hour-long game. Especially if you're teaching new people. But everybody knew what we were doing. We just boom, 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 went through it. So anyways, you are rolling your dice and they gives you money, sunstones, moonstones, victory points. And what you're doing is using the money to buy new tile sides. And you take off the poor, it's kind of like deck building or bag building. You've got lame sides on your dice. And so you're trying to get those off and get better ones on. Of course, the ones that are really expensive that cost 12 money are the best ones. So you're hoping to save up and get those. And then otherwise, it's a race for victory points over in the, I don't know what the board's called, but it's like an exploration board. You're going off and doing feats of heroism. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. It's almost themeless, but it's got a fantasy feel of you are a hero and you're building up your abilities and going out and fighting hydras and recruiting good guys to help you out type of thing. Mm-hmm. And I just love the dice crafting. And there's not much in the way of dice manipulation in the game other than the fact that you are improving your die. And if you can improve your die enough and get all the basic sides off.
Well, there are sides that will allow you to pick.
That's true.
A different side.
That's true. There's a copy side where if you roll it, you can look at what other people have rolled or your own and copy it. So through the course of the game, the manipulation comes out in just improving everything. Like you said, some of the cards will let you gain additional resources. So there's a bit more control there. But a lot of it is abilities to re-roll your dice, so you just gain more and more and more and more resources. Mm-hmm. There's room in the box. So one thing I love about this company, and I don't know if it's the designer himself, but the Seasons box fit all the expansion stuff perfectly. This Dice Forge box has plenty of room for expansion. So I love how specific everything has its place, and there's room for more. Again, a small complaint is they have little tiny icons on the insert to identify where things go, and you can't see them. That's
right.
2 minor gripes about the game. They needed to color the dice better, and they needed to do their insert identification better. But other than that, it's fun, fantastic. I've taught this to some really casual people, and they picked it up really quickly, and they loved it and wanted to play it some more. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Yes, I absolutely love this game too. You're right. It needs an expansion.
Mm-hmm. Next year.
Mark and I said that right from the beginning. But regardless, my rating of it is a 5. I just absolutely love it. And this is probably pretty easily in my top 20.
Nice.
All right. So another game that I'm going to talk about uses dice pretty exclusively.
Yeah.
Is Sagrada. In Sagrada, you are building stained glass windows with translucent dice, and the pips on the dice represent shades of color. So if you have a handful of red, green, yellow, and purple dice, some of those dice are going to represent lavender, and some are going to represent royal purple, and some are going to represent maroon, and some are going to represent pink, etc. It is a beautiful game. It's a beautifully well done game. It's a dice drafting game. Everybody is drafting from the same pool of dice every turn. I love the choosing mechanism. You go around the table once, and then the last person gets to pick again, and you go back around the table the other way. And so the first person that chose is the last person that chose to choose as well. I think that is a wonderful way to do that. Mm-hmm. And then you are placing your dice on your player board. The player boards are beautiful. They hold the dice really, really well.
Oh, yeah.
They hold the cards that you put into the window that have your criteria for building the window laid out really, really well. And they hold them really well. You put these cards in, and you're placing your dice based on the color in the window and based on placement rules. So, for example, you can't put 2 red dice next to each other. It's just not allowed.
Right.
You also can't put 2 3s next to each other, regardless of what color they are. And that goes for any color. This is a fun game. You get these little gems based on the difficulty level that you choose for your window card. They allow you to use tools which allow you to manipulate the dice. And this is the one that I was talking about where I said this is my only game where you really get to actively manipulate the dice.
Yes.
You have to pay to manipulate the dice, but it can make a big difference in how you play the game. I love this game. We only have the 4-player version of it. I can't wait to get the 5 and 6-player version of it, and the other expansion that just came out for it too. And I noticed that Azul did a stained glass version or expansion, which I thought was interesting.
It's a new version. It's not compatible.
Okay.
It's a completely new game in a similar method as Azul, but it is
okay.
It is, but yes, it is stained glass windows, just like Sagrada.
Yeah, and I mean, how many games with stained glass windows are there? I mean, really. Yeah. So anyway, that's Sagrada, another game that I absolutely give a 5 to. Like I said, it's got to be in my top 20. I haven't figured that out yet, but I'm sure that it will be. Mm-hmm. In the top 20 of my favorite games of all time, because I absolutely enjoy playing it.
Yeah, I got a chance to play this, and I definitely enjoyed it. It's a little challenging for Will, and for him, he didn't get as much theme out of it. I know it constantly gets compared to Role Player because it's dice drafting and dice placement in a grid according to certain rules. So it is very similar. At Origins, we taught our friends in Ohio how to play Role Player, and it was too heavy. They didn't get the theme because they don't have a role-playing background. So we went over to the booth to show them Sagrada. They watched a few rounds of how Sagrada was played, bought it right away, because it is comparable, because they knew from the experience of playing Role Player they like dice drafting. They like the dice placement in the grid for the rules, what you can't place next to each other. But Role Player didn't do anything for them, and it was too heavy. But yeah, I think for me, I just still love Role Player more because of I've got a role-playing background. But I think it's one of those things, if we ever could find an inexpensive copy of Sagrada, I wouldn't mind having it in the library as an option for bigger game days, because it is a lot easier to teach. Role Player is mostly just me and Will and a few of our heavier hardcore gamers, but it's not one we can play with a lot of people. My last one is Dice City, and I really enjoy this one. Again, it has a lot of manipulation of the dice, but you have a grid that has rows of colored dice, or colors that correspond to the colored dice. So there's a blue, red, yellow, whatever. And so when you roll your dice, the columns are numbers 1 through 6 that correspond to the dice. So if you roll a blue is a 1, you place it on the corresponding coordinate, the blue row in the 1 spot. And your basic board starts out with very little on it. So this scratches 2 itches for me in that I love city building. I love being able to build up and do different things in a city, especially Will he has his own strategies. But this is all through dice. You are trying to earn enough money to build buildings or do different actions. You can build mines or wood mills and things like that get you the resources you need to build better buildings that let you do things. There's a military strategy. There's shipping strategy where you can just go and try to make a lot of resources and ship them off somewhere else. You can fight pirates. But a lot of it is using the dice. So even though you roll the dice and they're going to place anywhere, there's a lot of ways that you can manipulate it. Some of the cards you can buy will allow you to copy other cards or take this dice off that spot to be able to move a different row. So there's a lot of manipulation of where you can use your dice. And again, you're trying to make the most victory points by the whole concept of making your best city. It's a dice crafting game in a different way than obviously Dice Forge, where you're actually changing the dice. But here you are manipulating how the dice activate cards in your city. So it's a lot of fun. We've gotten several expansions that add nice twists and new resources to the game. And I think we still have a couple expansions to play.
Nice. Yeah, this is one I haven't played yet. I haven't even seen it on the table. So yeah, I would be interested in playing that sometime.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's
hit.
It's not very complicated. It's not too long, about an hour. And I don't know why it's not talked about as much. It's from AEG. Maybe they just don't promote it as much. I like that all the expansions are very small and affordable. So you never feel like some expansions feel like you're buying the game all over again. And this one doesn't change things. They don't change things so much that you have to learn a whole lot of new rules. It's like, the first one is called All That Glitters. Well, it adds gold. So now there's a new resource, gold. So
Okay.
I really definitely enjoy it and definitely would be up for teaching it.
Nice. Okay. Before I do my very last one, I want to go down a list of honorable mentions that Sarah and I have put together. Mm-hmm. When I was crafting my list to talk about today, I basically went through my 1 by 100 or 100 by 1 challenge, and I picked out just the games that are on there that have dice. And I came up with a lot of them.
Yeah, you did. I didn't add too much to the list because we have a lot of overlap, and then I figure your list is good.
Oh, thank you. All right, so I'm just going to go down and mention these. Some of these I've talked about recently, which is also why they aren't the ones that I went in depth on. But they're still favorite games. Dice Hospital just came out. Elder Sign, I talked about in a couple of episodes recently. Age of War is a Reiner Knizia game. You're in feudal Japan rolling dice to try and take over castles. Sarah mentioned Role Player. Dungeons and Dragons, of course.
Yep.
And just about any role-playing game as well. I know the Firefly role-playing game uses dice as well. Castles of Burgundy.
Yep.
Star Trek Ascendancy uses dice for battles. Kingsburg is a dice placement game.
Yep, love that one.
Yep. Quicks.
Classic, yep.
Yep. Bang the Dice game. Western Legends has dice that you use for mining, and so they're custom dice. Firefly has custom dice that you use for battles against Reavers and the Alliance and all kinds of things. You use them for all kinds of things. Outpost uses dice to determine what cards come out between rounds. Roll for It Deluxe. Firefly Adventures uses the same type of dice as the Firefly game. It's from the same company. Dice of Crowns. That's a dice-based game. Unfair has dice when you use the gangster deck. That was what it is, the gangster deck. First Orchard uses a die to choose what fruit you're going to pick off the tree and whether or not the raven can move forward. The Sneaky Snacky Squirrel game uses dice to determine what color acorn you're going to pick up with the squirrel squeezers. Animal Upon Animal uses dice to determine what kind of animal you're going to stack up next. Artifacts Incorporated.
Yeah, it's just Artifacts Inc. is usually what it's called. And it's a dice engine building game.
That's right.
It's a really cute, smaller game. I wouldn't say it's lighter. I really like it. It's streamlined. But yeah, you're going around and you're trying to get artifacts. And again, it's rolling the dice and trying to get the different artifacts. It's been a while since I played it, but I remember liking that one a lot. And then Istanbul Dice. We don't get a chance to get Istanbul to the table a lot, but we have friends that come over and they will always be up for Istanbul Dice just because it's so much faster and it just focuses on the gems and collecting the gems.
I haven't played that one yet, and Mark and I would really like to try that one.
Yes, it is really good. Again, the dice will have the different resources that you need to collect different things. Okay. It's really good. Can't Stop, I think, is a really underrated game. Even the base game just is a lot of fun, but we have the little tile expansion. It's a headache to set up, but is so much fun. It adds so much chaos. Can't Stop's one of those you roll the dice and you're moving up these tracks to try to get to the top, and whoever gets the top of 3 tracks first wins, but it's push your luck. If you ever can't do a placement of dice, you lose all your progress for the turn. So you choose. But with the little tiles, if you land on one, you flip it over and it might say, move that token to the left. So you can switch columns that you're going to, or might say, oh, you have to go back to, or you might have to go forward to.
Oh, wow.
And it actually incorporates the whole driving theme that is completely non-existent in the base game. Other than the fact that it looks like a giant stop sign and you're using cones, is one where if we play it with the expansion, we actually talk about it afterwards. Like, oh my God, did you see I went that roundabout 3 times before I could get out of there? You know, it actually adds to it, but unfortunately it's not easy to find the expansion. And you do have to put tiles at every single little spot on that board. So that's the unfun part.
Okay.
And then lastly, Harvest Dice. I just think that's so cute because when you're rolling the dice, you're actually drawing vegetables into it's a roll and write. So you're drawing vegetables into your little patch. You have to do adjacency rules. So once you draw on a carrot, you have to put your next carrots there. But if you don't roll the dice correctly, you won't be able to place it. So it's a cute one.
Cool. All right. And my last game that I'm going to talk about is a worker placement game, and it is Euphoria. In Euphoria, you are handed 4 dice. You could only start with 2.
Yes.
And you want to add your workers. It's like most worker placement games. You're trying to add workers to what you're doing.
Right.
But your goal in the game is to keep your workers dumb and happy.
Yep.
And if they ever add up to more than 16, then you start losing your workers because they've figured out what you've got going on and they're hitting the highway. And so then you lose your workers. So yeah, your goal in the game is it's called Euphoria, build a better dystopia for a reason.
Yep.
You're trying to achieve your goals, but keep your workers
under control.
Exactly. So I love that game. I don't get it to the table nearly enough. I do give it a 5. It is, again, in my top 10 easily.
Nice.
Easily. So that is Games with Dice from us. So what are your favorite dice games and why? What is it about that game that keeps you coming back for more? So you can tell us on our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/ourturnpodcast and is run by the wonderful Sarah. And you can also talk to us about it on Twitter I am on there as @OurTurnPodcast, or on BoardGameGeek.com. We're at guild number 2600, and you can find links to all of those on our show notes that you can go to at OurTurnPodcast.com/episode 94. Thank you, Sarah. That was fun.
That was fun.
The Dice Tower Network is a proud supporter of the Jack Vassell Memorial Fund. The board gaming community is kind and generous, and this fund was created to provide financial assistance to members of the board gaming community in their time of need. To find out how you can help the fund continue to help others, please visit jackvassell.org/donate. Thank you for your support.
All right, so we are at the part of the episode where we're winding things down and looking ahead. So, Sarah, what have you got on your plate for the next couple of weeks?
Well, things have been kind of slow just in general with the holidays. Actually, not getting together with as many people as normal because everybody's schedules are conflicting, but that's okay because it's given us some more downtime. And my back, well, it's winter. My back and the winter don't ever agree. So it's been nice to actually take it easier on the weekends. Not that I don't love people coming over, but it's definitely a little less stressful just to be like, oh, I can stay in my PJs till 3 o'clock if I want to. So
sure,
that's nice. But it has given us time to brainstorm some new game ideas. We have several games that are in playable prototype form, but our design group has not been able to meet for the last 2 months. So they won't get play tested till January. And the roll and write genre is just exploding, and people started talking about what else would you mix roll and write with Welcome to coming out with cards and writing. And I don't know why I thought of it, but I was like, what if you mixed worker placement with writing? And I don't know. I just thought this would be really interesting. And then I thought about Danny Devine. He designed Harvest Dice, Ghosts Love Candy, and also a game that very few people know about because the Kickstarter was successful, but then it was bombed. I'm not going to get into that story. Anyways, Mob Town. It got made, it got delivered to backers, but then it got liquidated. So no one really knows it exists. And we got to play test it. He has a really cool mechanism in Mob Town. The way the cards come out, when you flip a card over, it has an arrow. And so you're building this map. Over 3 rounds, you build a different city map every single time. You place a card down, the arrow goes up, the next card will go up, but then the next card might have an arrow to the right. And so you do the next one to the right, or maybe it goes back to the left. And so this, I call it the divining method because his last name is Divine. Yeah, I'm sure he laughs at me about that one. And I find that really fascinating, and I think it's a really cool mechanism. And we've talked off and on. He's tried to use it in other games, and it's never quite worked. And I had an idea for this worker placement roll and write, or no, there's no dice. So it's worker placement and write. Everybody is gingerbread people, and it's time for the holidays, and you need to decorate your gingerbread house. Well, thankfully, you're right next to the candy forest. So the game is you actually use your family members to go out into the forest, which is created using that divining method, so that it'll be a different map every single time you play the game. And so you move the workers around, and each card will have a gathering spot or an action spot. And so you're trying to gather the materials like candy canes, gumdrops, I can't think right now, but other things, and you bring them back and you have recipes on how to build different decorations. And so Will and I are working through it now. So different people have different recipes. So the way I make a tree might take a gumdrop and a candy cane, but somebody else that takes a licorice and I can't think, something else. So your pad in front of you has a picture of the house and the different spaces where you can draw. So it'd be kind of like harvest dice, where in that one you drew vegetables. And here you would actually draw a circle for a wreath, a triangle for a Christmas tree. I think it was a diamond for a bow, or an inverted diamond for a bow, and I am forgetting something else. A star, because everyone can draw a star. A star is a star, so that one's nice. Mm-hmm. And so we're calling it Holidays Draw Near, because the holidays are coming.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah, you're drawing on it. And so I think that'll be a lot of fun. And so Will and I are working through, I'm actually starting to create the house, like the first iteration of how many spaces. So there's different zones. There's the roof, the house, the path, and then the yard, because they're going to score a different way, because this is a decorating competition for your whole, your community.
Making a gingerbread house.
Yes. But you're a gingerbread person in a gingerbread house having a decorating contest for your neighborhood.
Oh, I see. Okay. That's cool.
It's all fantastical because you live next to the candy forest.
Right.
But there are judges. And so each of the judges is going to be evaluating a different area of your house for different criteria. So I don't have all the details, but that's one of the things that we're working on and have been working on, and I expect we'll continue to work on as our next game project. Yeah, because otherwise haven't been able to get together with too many friends to play games, just mostly family. So
nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this Wednesday is my sweet little niece Walker Lynn's birthday.
Ah.
She is going to be 4.
Oh.
And she has a brand new baby sister. So I am looking forward to seeing both Walker Lynn and my new niece Charlie.
Ah.
And then my work schedule is changing as of the 16th of December. And I am going to have Monday through Friday as work days, and I'm going to have weekends off again.
Oh, that's awesome.
I can't wait to get back to
normal
game days at your house. Yay! And library game days and game days at Great Escape and and Dungeons and Dragons with Doc Cross. Hi, Doc. And, I can't wait to get back to my fun gaming activities on the weekends.
Is Mark's schedule changing too?
Yes.
Oh, that's great. I was really hoping.
Yes. And he is actually, he got weekends off in the last bid that he went through, because he's worked for this company longer than I have.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
And, but he got his first choice, which is Monday through Friday. And he actually got a little bit later in the day shift, which he really likes.
Nice.
He is not a morning person.
Yeah.
And, I am. So I stuck with the 5:30 to 2:30 shift, but it's Monday through Friday, which I am just thrilled about.
That's awesome.
So I'm excited about that. And I can't wait for our next Charterstone game.
Yes.
I have so much fun getting together with you guys and playing Charterstone. So I am looking forward to that. And then I have a couple of little side projects, and I'm working on getting days scheduled for Your Turn.
Nice.
Events scheduled for that. So I've got a lot going on. I've got a couple of Broken Token crates to put together for a couple of games.
Yeah, I have a couple inserts I should put together.
I got one for Flashpoint Fire Rescue and another one for Pandemic.
Nice.
Yeah, so I've got a lot on my plate.
Yeah.
And I haven't even talked about holiday get-togethers because they just aren't on my radar yet.
Yeah, well, they're coming.
Yes, they are. They are. So I don't know where I'm going to be for Christmas yet. I don't know where I'm going to be for New Year's yet. But I'm sure I will have fun either way.
Yep.
So, all right, Sarah, where can people reach out to you if they want to connect with you online?
If you want to talk to me, most often I am on Twitter at EurogamerGirl. I am on BGG as Silva Shadow, SilvaShado. I'm not on there as frequently, but you can send me a message and I will respond when I can. Otherwise, on Facebook, I run the Our Turn Podcast Facebook page. So if you make any comments, I'm usually the one responding to those.
All right. Fantastic. And you can reach out to me on Twitter at Our Turn Podcast. And I am also the Guildmaster on guild number 2600 on BoardGameGeek.com. And then also don't forget that our show notes are on ourturnpodcast.com/episode 94. Sarah, can you believe we're at episode 94?
No, I cannot. Has it really been that long?
It has. I can't believe it. We're going to have to think of what we're going to do for episode 100.
I know, something special.
So, yeah, if you guys have any ideas about something we can do for episode number 100, let us know on Twitter or Board Game Geek or Facebook. We would love to hear your ideas.
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks for joining me, Sarah. This has been fun. And on behalf of the entire Our Turn podcast crew, that was our turn.
Now it's yours.
Thank you for listening. This episode was recorded on December 10th, 2018, and is written and produced by Cathy Ford and Sarah Reed with assistance from Mark Ford. Next time, Nicole and I will discuss RPG character generation. We want and encourage your questions, comments, and feedback. Please call 916-426-2873 and leave us a short voicemail or send an email to feedback@ourturnpodcast.com. Our theme music was composed by Adriana Crickle. Incidental music was provided by Purple Planet Music. Please check out our show notes to learn more about these talented artists. The material in this episode is copyrighted under Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives 4.0 International License. If you want to learn more about the games discussed in this episode, please visit our website at ourturnpodcast.com/episode 94. You can find a list of games along with links to their listing on BoardGameGeek.com. We are proud members of the Dice Tower Network. You can find out about other shows in the network like Board Games Insider, Four Corners of the Board, or Out of Game by going to dicetowernetwork.com. Thank you for your support. If you like what you heard, please tell your friends about us.